And hey guys, welcome back to the channel, back with Midwest Express. So it is March 14th. There's a lot of stuff going on. Today, the weather was really a lot of rain, but made the money I wanted to make today. Decided to wrap it up and get home early. And I just wanted to kind of do a video just based on some of the things that I've been observing and noting in today's news and things that are just kind of happening around the country that kind of it affects all of us as Americans and us as gig workers. And some of the breaking news, the immigration issue that we have in America is overwhelming. New York, Mayor of New York contacted the White House requesting emergency funds. And the White House has said, just fill out the paperwork. There's $107 million in disaster emergency funds that we're going to send to New York City to make it available to help out with the migrant problem. And just like every city that's being inundated with the immigration issues that we have going on, it's overwhelming and taxing on our country, on our financial status. And I am, you're concerned because if you've been around a while, you know that back in the 80s, Ronald Reagan gave amnesty for all of these migrants to become citizens that came to America, and things kind of worked out. But at that time, we needed workers in America. And right now, we don't really need this many people to be coming here to fill jobs, because that's kind of, inflation is rising so fast and the jobs payout isn't matching how fast inflation's growing, the income, because there are a lot of people that will do that labor much cheaper. So I was listening to Bloomberg yesterday, and Tyson Foods is offering migrant asylum seekers in New York City 52,000 openings for jobs available with Tyson Foods in New York State. And the way Bloomberg was reporting it was like, this is a great thing. We're helping the migrants out. We're helping the people in New York out. And the labor is going to be affordable. But I kind of, I don't see Tyson Foods as having the interests of these migrant workers in hand. They see a way that they could capitalize on cheap labor and not have to pay American citizens the labor rates that they deserve. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then one of my Uber rides this morning was a manager from a pawn shop. And me and him were talking, and I was asking him, well, how's business in the pawn industry? Because if you own debt, if you owe, all these companies like BlackRock, they're buying up all the property in the country, and they're driving up rental prices, and they're driving up the prices of first buyer homes. And with that, I was asking this guy, well, how's business? And I'm expecting him to tell me it's good. He's like, yeah, it's really, really busy right now. And I was like, really? So what's driving, most of your business in the shop? And he's like, and he was explaining to me that now that it's tax season, a lot of people are coming in to get back the things that they've had to put pawn to over the last few months because things have been tight. So they're using their tax refunds to get their stuff back. And he said, but the big boost to business for him right now, which kind of shocked me, but he said that it's payday loans. It's people that come in to pawn their material for $50, for $100, because they need just a little bit more money to pay their rent, or to get gas for the week, or to pay their groceries for that week. And then they're paying like 20% interest a month on getting these loans. And I was like, well, why are they coming to you so much? And he goes, because it's not like a bank. Like when you go to a bank, you have to show that you have employment history, or you have to show your pay stubs. When they come in and they pawn something, they don't have to have credit. They don't have to show a work statement. They just give them the material and they get the money. And sometimes they come back for stuff, but he says majority of the time, they're just taking the money to pay their bills just to survive right now. And that, along with this article that I'd seen last week where they were talking about, 5 new credit card companies that allow you to use buy now, pay later for your groceries. And to me, that's alarming. Like the fact that we are, like back in the day, there was layaway. Like you would go to the store, you would say, I want this phone. And they'd be like, okay, well, if you give us $20 a month for so many months, after it's paid off, you get the phone. And then they came out and said, well, we'll give it to you now. Buy it now, and you'll pay us later. And buy now, pay later, which was kind of the idea that if you didn't pay, you have to return your phone or the item. But if they're doing it for groceries now, that people are so desperate that they're using buy now, pay later for groceries, like those credit card companies are not going to come and confiscate the food in your cabinets, right? They're not going to repo your car like that, you know? So it's another sign that I keep saying that things are getting tighter and things are getting a lot more difficult for the average person. Over 60% of us Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that is not good financially. Now, if you watch the news, the Wall Street brokers, these guys are just gamblers. They are just betting up and down the stock market's going up or down. And it goes up for so many days, and then they short the stocks and say, oh, it's going to come back down. And they make money on the way down, and they make money on the way up. And they're making money when you have debt, and they make money when you buy stuff. That people that are investing in the stock market, there is opportunities to make money there. But people are now saying that things are getting so overinflated that there's this big fear of missing out when it comes to stocks, that people are now paying, way past the price to earnings on these stocks, where before you would pay maybe 18 to 20% was reasonable back in the day. Now people are paying 22, 35% more than what a stock is earnings for the annual year is. And that's another thing that kind of alarms me, being in the gig economy and being in, because if the economy tanks, then nobody's going to be taking Ubers, nobody's going to take Lyfts, nobody's going to order DoorDash, nobody's going to order Instacart. People are going to cinch the belts, and they're going to go get their own food, and they're going to take buses, and they're going to, do it the old-fashioned way of moving back in with mom and dad, or our economy is going to change. I'm not saying that, Uber and Lyft are going to go away, but as things constrict, more drivers come out, and the companies say, well, this is great for us. We don't have to pay as much anymore because we have more drivers than what we need. And if we really need somebody, we'll just offer an incentive and they'll all come out of the woodwork and come drive at the times we need them to drive. So that's kind of been the business model. And just day before last, inflation numbers came out. Inflation numbers are a lot higher than what they were anticipated, or I should say a lot higher, but they're higher than what was originally anticipated. And, come November, December, people were estimating that the Federal Reserve was going to cut the interest rates up to 7 times in 2024. Then they went down to 5. Then they went to 3. And now they're saying they might not cut it all this year. Maybe 1 or 2 cuts this year. And that's, if inflation stays high and they don't cut the interest rates, it affects the stock market. But let's say we're not, invested in the stock market. The average Joe, how's that affect you? It affects your interest rates on your credit cards, to get a car loan, on the mortgage rates to buy a house if you want to buy a house or refinance a house. All these things are all driven by the federal rate. So just more signs that the dance might be ending soon. And, I kind of see our economy right now like the old days of musical chairs, and they would play the music and they would take one chair away, and there'd always be one person at the end that wouldn't have a chair to sit down in when the music stopped. And I'm afraid that I see a lot of my fellow drivers that aren't prepared for what's going to happen if the music stops. And I think it's super important that you guys are unleveraging yourself from debt, making sure that you have other income revenue streams. I read a heartbreaking story like 2 days ago about a woman that used to drive for Amazon, and she got injured on the work, so she got workman's comp. And after that kind of ran out, she thought, well, I'll just get into gig work. That's less intensive as doing Amazon deliveries. So she was doing DoorDash and whatnot, but now that's all drying up. And what she was making before, she can't make that money now. And she's been out of the workforce for a while, and now she's in a rock and a hard place because she's stressing out where the next meal is going to come. And she's got 4 kids. And if you're relying on gig work to feed your family, you need to get out of gig work, because if this is the only way you're going to eat, you got to keep looking for other options out there, because it's not going to be sustainable in the future. At least that's my prediction. The unemployment numbers were again modified this last week, when they said last month there was like 300,000 jobs gained. It wasn't 300,000 jobs. It was short by like 140,000 less than that. So it's crazy that the government is kind of guesstimating on where these numbers are, and accurately they can't project where anybody's at anymore. They don't know how many people are even in gig work anymore. There's so many people that are doing this as a full-time gig and a side hustle, and it's gonna get tougher, guys. My projection is it's gonna get tougher. In 2023, they're saying that we had 0 net gains of full-time jobs. That means more people with full-time jobs lost their jobs than actually gained their jobs for full-time employment. Now, part-time jobs, lots of part-time jobs, and that's where almost all the gains came from. A lot of companies have let full-time employees go and rehired, or just gone out of business. And we haven't gained enough full-time jobs to even balance back to 0. We've lost more in 2023 than we gained. So those are the kind of things that we don't see in the numbers and we don't pay attention to, because we're in our everyday mode of just, getting ours and got to put food on the table and got to pay the bills and do our thing, right? But it's all kind of concerning, because I see many new Uber and Lyft drivers. And we're getting into the Uber and Lyft season. But a lot of people are coming over from food delivery. A lot of people are coming over from grocery delivery, because it's a slow season there. And when it gets oversaturated, Uber and Lyft don't pay no bonuses. They don't give any incentives. We got spring break. If you're in an area that's, tourist area right now, you're loving life. But up here in the North and the Midwest, right now, it's going to get quiet this next week, and we're not going to have students around, and things are going to be a bit quieter. And you got to keep thinking about, how do I keep the revenue coming in? And this is probably the biggest sign that I see. And I think about this. I don't want to say every day, but I think about it often on what is my next step? Where am I going next? What am I going to be trying next? What am I going to do? And I'm retired. I have a pension. I know a lot of drivers that don't have the luck to have that buffer. And I noticed lately, last night, I just kind of started scrolling through YouTube videos, and I've noticed that a lot of gig tubers, a lot of guys that do gig economy platforms, be it DoorDash, Walmart Spark, Uber, Lyft, all these guys that do gig videos on YouTube, a lot of them are rebranding. They are trying to pivot out of gig work, and they're trying to sell crypto, financial advice, just trying to keep the ball moving into other things, because I think they see it, that it's dying off, and that they got to do something else to keep their revenue coming in. So they're trying to pivot, and I don't blame them. I think that's a wise business decision. But if the music stops, you don't want to be the last one with no chair to sit down in. That's all I'm saying. Hopefully you guys get some value out of these videos. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll hit you on the next one.